Myself Hemalatha. I am from Department of Renal Dialysis Technology, Assistant Professor, Yenepoya School of Allied Health Sciences, Yenepoya deemed to be university. Today we are going to discuss on the topic water treatment in dialysis. So first we'll move on to the specific learning objectives. At the end of the session, you will be able to define what water treatment and why it is done, and describe the contaminants present in water treatment and its effects, explain the process of water treatment, define the quality of how the water should be. So moving on to the introduction. So nearly dialysis patients are exposed to 120 to 200 liters of dialysis solution per treatment. That means more amount of water they are exposing to, and if there are any presence of small molecular weight contaminants in the dialysis solution, it can accumulate in the patient body as there is absence of renal excretion, and it will lead to a very serious conditions. Hence the water quality is very important for the dialysis patients. Next we are going to see about what are the effects of contaminants which is present in the water. First we have aluminium. Usually aluminium is added to the normal water as a flocculating agents. So but for the dialysis patients, if there is a presence of aluminium, it may lead to bone disease, that is a progressive and often fatal neurological deterioration, also known as dialysis encephalopathy syndrome, can also be occurred in a severe cases. And chlorine and chloramine are usually added to the water in order to prevent the bacterial proliferation, but to the dialysis patient it causes hemolytic anemia, that is the rupture of RBCs. Then we have fluoride. Usually the fluoride is added to the water to prevent the tooth decay, but for the dialysis patients large amounts can cause pruritus and nausea. Copper and zinc are trace metals which are present in the normal water, but in the dialysis it can leach the metal pipes and fittings. Bacteria and endotoxin that can cause pyrogenic reactions to the patients. So the normal level of contaminants that a normal water and the RO water has is aluminium 0.05 to 0.2, and the water normal RO water should contain 0.01. Chloramine is 4 and RO water should contain 0.1 milligram per liter. Chlorine 4 and RO water should contain 0.5. Copper 1.3 and RO water should contain 0.1. Fluoride 4 and the RO water should contain 0.2. These are the levels of contaminants in the normal water and what should be the levels in the RO water. That is the final purified water. Okay. Now we are going to see about what are the components of water purification system. First, there will be water supply. Next, backflow preventer, temperature blending valve, booster pump, acid injection metering device, multimedia depth filter, water softener, brine tank, carbon tank, RO system, deionizer, distribution system. This is the pictorial representation of how the water plant is. So these are the components of the water treatment. So now we are going to see in detail about everything. First we are moving on to the water supply. Water supply, we have two ways of water supply. One is the surface water and one more is the groundwater. Surface water which has multiple number of microorganisms, industrial waste, fertilizers, sewage, etc. Whereas the groundwater has rich in organic and inorganic ions such as iron, calcium, magnesium and sulfate. So most probably we would prefer the groundwater. Next, moving on to the backflow preventer, there are few preventers that are there to this is before the pre-treatment of the water. There are pre-treatment and the after treatment. So before pre-treatment there are certain devices which maintains the exact pH, flow and the pressure of the water. Among them one will be the backflow preventer. So it is also known as reverse flow prevention device. It monitors the pressure, any pressure drops that crosses the device, and it prevents the backflow of water. That is the use of backflow preventer. And also we have next is temperature blending valve. In temperature blending valve, the normal temperature of the water should be maintained at 25 degrees Celsius. Okay. So these valves are widely used on large central RO systems. They tend to have cold incoming water. So to maintain the pressure, the temperature blending valve will present. So more the cooler the water, there will be less amount of purified water. So the normal temperature is maintained. This everything happens before the starting of the treatment. Next we have the booster pump. Booster pump is usually used for a constant flow of water, as there is continuous cleaning of the RO water, generation is going on continuously, so there should be a continuous pressure which is flowing on into the water. So that we have the booster pumps. This dialysis facilities often experience fluctuating or decreased incoming water pressure or flow. So the booster pump and the temperature blending valve are used to reduce the pressure and to maintain a constant flow of water. Next we have acid injection metering device. So the normal water pH should be between 5 to 8.5. So if not, usually the city water is more alkaline. So to reduce the alkalinity, we use something called as hydrochloric acid. So that will maintain the pressure, maintain the pH between 5 to 8.5. So that is what is said here. By increasing the pH of the city water supply using lime softening agents or calcium carbonate, this is used to prevent leaching of lead, copper and other metals. So from the city and residential piping system, it is usually used. In order to remove chlorine and chloramine effectively, we have to maintain the pH of 5 to 8.5. But if the pH is more alkaline, we couldn't able to remove the chlorine and chloramine. So we should maintain the pH. This everything includes before the startment of pre-treatment, and the pre-treatment starts from here, the sand filter. First, from the water supply, it passes through all the booster pumps, temperature blending valve, acid injection metering device, then it comes to the sand filter. Here large particles, that is greater than 10 microns, which has dirt, silt, colloidal matter, everything will be removed in the sand filter. Okay, next the foulants can clog the carbonate softener tanks and destroy the RO pump and foul the RO membrane. So everything will be removed in the sand filter. From the sand filter, next we are going to this water softener. Water softener, it consists of resins which are present, small amount of resins. It is present in the water softener. What happens here? The water flows from an upstream direction, and there will be a release of calcium and magnesium from the water. They will be attached onto the softener, and it is replaced by the sodium ions. That is what is given here. Softeners can remove calcium and magnesium by exchanging these for sodium. Purpose: calcium build up on the RO membrane. After it reaches the RO membrane, if the calcium is still present, it can decrease the quality of the RO membrane, and it will decrease the water quality. So calcium and magnesium are removed here. And one more thing, calcium and magnesium should not be high in the water. Next we have the brain tank. Attached to the softener, we have the brain tank. Brain tank consists of sodium chloride pellets. So the water softener resins need to be backwashed and regenerated frequently to prevent the water softener to get regenerated. So during backwash, the water is drawn into the softener in a reverse direction to wash and fluff the resin, and then the brine solution is introduced into the introduced into the water softener. So then the calcium and magnesium will be removed, and it will be replaced by the sodium ions. So this is what the work of a brain tank is. Next we are moving on to the carbon tank. The carbon tank has activated carbon in it. It is used to remove effectively of the chlorine and chloramine, which cannot be removed by the RO system or RO membrane. So the carbon also removes small organic compounds that is present in the water. So chlorine and chloramine can permanently damage the downstream of RO membrane, and chloramine will cause hemolytic anemia. So that is why we are using the carbon tank. The carbon tank is of there are two carbon tanks present in the RO system. One will be named as worker, and one will be named as polisher. Upstream will be the worker and downstream will be the polisher. If one carbon tank is exhausted, it will be replaced by the other. So there are two carbon tanks, and to remove effectively of the chlorine and chloramine, we have 2 carbon tanks. So there is something called as empty bed contact time. When the water from the water softener, it comes into the carbon tank for the worker carbon tank in upstream direction, then the water should be in contact with the activated carbon for a period of about 5 to 10 minutes in order to effectively remove chlorine and chloramine from the water. So that is called as the empty bed contact time. If the water is not in contact for 5 to 10 minutes with the activated carbon, then there will not be an effective removal of chlorine and chloramine. So that may again will lead to the hemolytic anemia. Okay, so regular backwashing of the carbon tanks with water fluffs and the beds and prevents the formation of channels in the carbon, which reduces their efficiency. So the pH should be adjusted. As I said before, the pH is important for the removal of chlorine and chloramine, that should be maintained here. Next, from the carbon tank, worker and the polisher, then we are moving on to the micron filter. The primary purification process is always by the RO, but very small particles that can be removed in the micron filter. A filter is normally placed in upstream of the RO membrane to catch any carbon particles and resin beds that may have been inadvertently released into the pre-treatment system. That's why micron filters are present. Next, we have the RO system, that is reverse osmosis system. This is achieved by high pressure. We are forcing high pressure water to pass through the membrane so that all the bacteria and endotoxins stays out. It will not be entering into the pores. So that is why we are passing a high pressure of water. So the RO will remove 95% of ionic contaminants and non-ionic contaminants as well as glucose. It provides an effective barrier against bacteria and endotoxins. Next, we have the deionizer. Next to that, deionizer. This deionizer is not mandatory to all the units to have. It is optional. The work of the deioner is to remove the anionic and cationic resins which are still present in the water. So it consists of 2 beds, that is cationic resin, and another will be the anionic resin, or a single bed with a mixture of both the resins. This cationic resins contain sulfuric groups. They exchange hydrogen ions for cations such as sodium, calcium and aluminium. And then we have the anionic resin, which contains ammonium groups which exchange hydroxyl ions for chloride, phosphate and fluoride. So this hydrogen and hydroxyl ions are released during the exchange process. They combine to become water, resulting in the product water that contain very few residual ions. Next, we have the distribution system. The purified water intended for the preparation of dialysis solution must be distributed to individual dialysis machine to be produced. The water distribution is confined to the loop. It should not have multiple branches or dead ends should not be there. It should be in a loop system. And the disinfection should be regularly done to prevent the bacterial colonization. So the distribution of the water can be direct feed or indirect feed. Direct feed in the sense from the RO system, if it directly passes to the patient, then it is called as direct feed. Indirect feed is when it is present in the storage tank, then after it is being generated to the patients, that is called as indirect feed. The indirect feed, the storage tank capacity should be 1500 liter or 1000 liter, it depends upon every units. Then the pipe should be in a loop system, like a bend system. It should not have straight ends or multiple branches, because if there are straight ends, there is high chance for the bacterial to colonize. So we are preferring the loop, that is the curve bends. Then the RO plant capacity is 3000 liter per hour. Then the pipeline material should be used as stainless steel or PEX pipes. Next, disinfection process. RO plant should be disinfected monthly once, and the chemical used is peracetic acid 4%. Pipeline distribution is 15 days once, that is monthly twice. What is the method is hot feed disinfection can be done. Next, we have the fluid quality. So we have seen what are the contaminants, what are the different components of the water, how exactly the water is processed, the process of RO system. Then we are moving on to the quality of water. So here according to the advancement for the Association of Medical Instrumentation or ISO international standards, we have the bacteria level, this or the levels that should be present in the final product water, that is the RO water. Bacteria 100 colony forming units per ml, action level should be 50 colony forming units per ml, and endotoxin level 0.23 endotoxin units per ml, action level 0.125 endotoxin units per ml, and ultra pure water should be bacterial ultra pure water in the sense after the storage tank, when it reaches the patient, that is when it reaches the extracorporeal circuit, before the mixing it passes through through a diasafe. It is like a filter that is present at the back of the hemodialysis machine. So the water passes through the diasafe, and then the water which comes out of the diasafe should have the bacteria level of 0.1 colony forming units per ml, endotoxin level below 0.03 endotoxin units per ml. Next we have, so these are all the things which we spoke about the water treatment. So in summary, first, how many liters of water that we are going to use for dialysis patient, why there is very much need for the water treatment to be treated, that is we have many process to treat the water, because the level of contaminants can cause serious diseases, serious side effects to the patients. So we are having the each process and what are the contaminants removed here. So carbon filter, it removes chlorine and chloramine. First from the groundwater it passes to the softener. Softener removes calcium and magnesium and it is replaced by sodium ions from the brine tank. Next the water is passing to the carbon filter where it removes chlorine and chloramine. Then from the carbon tank it passes through the RO system, or before that if there are micron filters, the water passes through the micron filters, then it moves on to the RO system, it removes bacteria and endotoxin. Then if there is a presence of deionizer, it removes ionic contaminants. Then there is a storage tank. From the storage tank we are storing the water and then it is distributed to the patients by a loop system. At last we are going to monitor the quality. The quality should be bacterial, and that is bacteria and endotoxin count and the ultra pure water. This fluid quality is given by advancement for the Association of Medical Instrumentation or ISO. So this is the overall view of the water treatment, how exactly it is done, and what are the process involved in the water treatment. So these are the references, article and the book, Handbook of Dialysis. Thank you.